Hey everyone, so today's lesson is going to be about the causes of the Haitian Revolution, and we are going to use subordinating conjunctions to do that. Our outcome for the day is going to be writing because we're going to be writing sentences. So your do now gives you the definition of a revolution, which is a forcible overthrow of a government in favor of a new system. So I want you to think about 3 reasons why a revolution might occur in a country. Any country, you can think about examples of revolution that you've known before. Think about things that might be happening in this country that might cause people to overthrow their government in favor of a new system. All right. So for our mini lesson, we have 2 different terms. We have colonialism and we have the Haitian Revolution. So colonialism is the policy or practice of countries maintaining or extending its control over other countries, territory, or nations of people, especially in establishing settlements or exploiting resources, right? So if we look at this image here, right, you have people who are cutting up a globe, right? And what they're essentially doing are taking pieces of those countries and keeping them for themselves. And that is exactly what colonialism is, right? They're using these countries or these pieces of this country for whatever it is that they want to use them for. The Haitian Revolution has also often been described as the largest and most successful slave rebellion in the Western Hemisphere, which is considered the Americas and the Caribbean. Enslaved Africans initiated the rebellion in 1791, and by 1803 they had succeeded in ending not just slavery, but French control over the colony, right? So when we're talking about colonialism and we're talking about Haiti, France, right? France is the country that had control over Haiti, right? So they are the ones that were using Haiti for their natural resources and things like that, okay? So here's a timeline, right, of when things kind of went down in Haiti, right? So you have the first Africans are brought to Santo Domingo by the Spanish, right? You have the first major slave revolt in the Caribbean. You have the French colonizers Saint Domingue, right? So Haiti was called Saint Domingue back when the French and the Spanish owned it, right? And then you have King Louis XIV, right? Was in power. We have the Maroons, which is a group of which is another name for African slaves. They led a rebellion, and then in 1789 is when the French Revolution happened. And actually, there's a date missing here. 1791 is when the Haitian Revolution happened. Okay, so forgive me for that being missing, but 1791 is when the Haitian Revolution happened. Okay. So we're going to be using subordinating conjunctions. What is that? A subordinating conjunction is a conjunction that introduces a subordinate or independent or dependent clause. What does that mean? A dependent clause is a fragment. That means that it cannot stand on its own, okay? A dependent clause is a clause that provides a sentence with additional information but cannot stand alone in the sentence. A dependent clause can either modify a clause next to it or serve as a component, as a component of an independent clause. So it's basically a word that we use to put 2 different ideas together. One of those ideas is able to stand on its own. The other idea is not, okay? So for example, we have, although the Taino people tried to fight the Spaniards, they were unsuccessful. This is a subordinated conjunction, right? You have the Taino people, Taino people tried to fight the Spaniards, right? They were unsuccessful. Okay. Then you have, since Columbus wanted gold, he forced millions of indigenous people into slavery. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to read a text and we are going to finish the sentence based on the subordinated conjunction that you're given. And I'll give you the example for the first paragraph. Okay. So the paragraph says, the reading, first of all, is what caused the Haitian Revolution. So we have the Haitian Revolution was the result of a long struggle on the part of slaves in the French colony of Saint-Domingue, but was also initiated by the free mulattoes who had long faced the trials of being denoted as semi-citizens. This revolt was not unique, as there were several rebellions of its kind against the institution of plantation slavery in the Caribbean, but the Haitian Revolution was the most successful. This had a great deal to do with the influence of the French Revolution, as it helped to inspire events in Haiti. The Haitian Revolution would go on to serve as a model for those affected by slavery throughout the world. So, the subordinating conjunction is since, right? So if I scroll up, I see that since is something that shows cause and effect. So I know that we're going to be looking at some type of cause and effect. So since enslaved Africans and free mulattoes were struggling, both groups united to lead one of the most successful and unique slave rebellions in modern history, right? So this is what was given, right? And this is what I came up with, okay? I'm going to go ahead and delete this because this is going to be one sentence, okay? So now what you're going to do is you're going to read these next two paragraphs, right? After this paragraph, there's just going to be one sentence. And then after this paragraph, there's going to be 3 sentences for you to fill out, okay? And then your wrap up is to use subordinating conjunctions to explain the causes of the Haitian Revolution in 2 to 3 sentences.